At least not on this channel, because I got like fucking no subscribers. At least not on that channel, because there's like no subscribers. On my other channel, I've been getting quite a bit of activity though. How many subscribers? So that's why it sucks that I got strikes for a couple weeks. I can't stream. How many subscribers? Like 182 right now, but I think they're shadow banning a bunch of them. And I even bought 20K subscribers or more before, and I got like 10,000 or 20,000 in one day. But then YouTube deleted them, and they keep deleting them. Like mine. Huh? Oh, I like how you changed your picture. Cool, nice. I love it. Fucking awesome. Got 212 subscribers. Nice. Yeah, you have really popular videos like that. Death Star. Like 600,000 or 700,000. Like the Death Star, right?
That one has less.
Which one? Little popular videos.
That one has less.
Oh, STS.
Yeah, that one, look, 633,000. And here's that. Want to see that? That was sick.
That's awesome. Yeah, the batteries, dude. Yeah, I like those.
Yeah, somebody just
I always
posted.
forget to shoot out the magazine.
But just right for you.
Man.
Ooh, unbelievable. Let's see from you how to make
That classic idiot. I remember him. I responded to him a couple years ago. I think I'm on the replies or on the search. Oh, of course I see it.
Look, do you see what I said? I said,
Tyler. Oh shit. I said you're a pussy.
did you see what I
Okay.
said? I said, did he kill someone? I had not noticed. He must have a really good eye. Left eye, I'm sure. Left, not
Nice
right
dick,
to
man.
left. The Democrats and all those fucking douchebags. Droids from here.
That was busted up that target. I was shooting at.
What? Oh, why is it
Some
busted up
idiot
that
comes
target?
coming.
Are you looking for more in this world? Then we are looking for you. The big-hearted, the bold, those driven by purpose. We are the Peace Corps. Volunteers, partners, communities in more than 60 countries, bringing our experience, joy, and passion to build a better world together. Are you ready to serve boldly? To go the distance to make a difference?
Yeah.
I'm getting fat from drinking alcohol.
That's good.
No, it's not. It's really not good for you, man. That's why you got that belly, probably.
I was just playing.
Oh, hey, the guy's here with the food. You mind going to get the food and give me a plate?
Of course getting fat is not good.
The dude's here. He's got a big, giant wheelbarrow full of food.
Nice. So you want a plate?
Yeah, please.
I'm gonna have to bring out the plate separately.
No, it's not that big of a bag, dude. He left it for the rats.
Hmm?
He left it on the
Yeah. Taco Bell. They didn't put enough sauce up. Give me a taco sauce somewhere.
I'm gonna ask them to get our money back.
Okay.
I'm gonna say if you don't bring us more fucking sauce, I'm gonna do is bring us back.
No, don't say you're gonna bring it back.
Where's the goddamn fucking number?
Don't say you're gonna bring it back. I want to eat it.
Where's the goddamn number? Is there a receipt in here? Oh, here it is. They put the goddamn number in there.
I'm fucking hungry as shit. I gotta eat it.
Can I have your phone so I can contact them? They won't let me do it from mine.
Here's taco sauce.
Oh, is it good?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fresh. I don't like it.
Do we have another one?
I didn't see anything.
Okay. Is this the one I just bought?
You bought one like that recently?
You got enough sauce for that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Spicy too.
I was just gonna get a bunch because I wanted more for later.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, if
I'm
you need
good.
a couple more,
You're good.
if you need
You're
a
good.
couple
You
more, I'll
got
try
it.
to save those for you.
You're good. I can use like other stuff too. It's good.
Okay, thanks, son. Mr. Bean.
Well, the flight test I think was only going to be only for like a little bit longer. I mean, it was going to go to.
No, they said 10 minutes earlier.
They said it was going to be a 10-minute test.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then,
So.
and then they're gonna fly for an hour
Oh, they were.
and then dump it into the Gulf of
Oh, they're
Mexico.
gonna fly for an hour up there.
Yeah, they're gonna just lean it over and head over the Gulf and just dump it in the Gulf.
Yeah. Okay.
Shit.
Yeah, cause So yeah, okay. So they did kind of fail quite a bit trying to get.
Well, no, they said from the beginning that
They're only testing to clear the
they said if they get
Just
off the ground
clear
at
it.
all and get up.
Yeah, clear I'm gonna go watch the launch again because that was pretty cool. Which chicken thing? Chicken chalupa or what? Oh. A burrito with chicken? That sounds good. Alright, it's on SpaceX. Here we go. I'm gonna go watch this again. It's gonna be fun.
Flight as well. We had a failure
of the heat shield.
They did a
with
close-up
propellant
video. What the heck was
in
that?
February of 2021. We had a 2 flight. Our solar gave us
propellants. That commonality helps build the reliability. And the fuel today is liquid methane. And that's at a temperature of just over 100 kelvins. That's about minus.
into today's launch attempt and so
Hey Siri, what's 100 Kelvin to Fahrenheit?
100 Kelvin is negative
-280 degrees Fahrenheit. So what was that? I need to go back. What?
The team gave their go. Propellant.
I think they're saying that that's what the propellant is cooled to, because I've heard that the gas propellant or whatever they're using is really
To make a very hard ocean landing, which if we even make it that far and manage to get any views, it will certainly make for a very exciting end to today's test. At this point in time, we are 20 minutes or just over 20 minutes from liftoff. Let's check in with John Innsbrucker for a status update. Hey, John, how's it looking?
Thanks, Kate. I'm John Innsbrucker, Principal Integration Engineer here at SpaceX. We're currently loading propellant from the ground system into both the first and second stages. Now, both vehicles use the same 2 propellants. That commonality helps build the reliability. And the fuel today is liquid methane. And that's at a temperature of just over 100 kelvins. That's about minus 272 degrees below zero on the Fahrenheit scale. Now, liquid methane is a different fuel from Falcon 9. That booster uses RP1 kerosene. However, our oxidizer is liquid oxygen, and that's the same as Falcon 9. Because there is no oxygen in space to support combustion, we have to bring our own. Now, leading up to where we are right now, we had a go-no-go poll. That was conducted just after T-minus 2 hours, and once the team gave their goes, we started loading propellants onto the booster at T-minus 1 hour and 39 minutes. At T-minus 1 hour and 22 minutes, we began propellant loading of the ship. The second stage you can see on your screen right there. Now, propellant loading of the Starship's second stage main tanks completed at about the T-minus 27-minute mark, at which time we then began loading the 2 header tanks in the nose of the second stage. Now, at T-minus 3 minutes, when the first stage super heavy propellant loading completes, that means we'll have all the propellant on the rocket, and the vehicle will be fully loaded with over 10 million pounds of propellant. Now, right now, at T-minus 19 minutes and counting from liftoff, the weather and winds are looking good. We have been watching the ground level winds. They're at 18 miles an hour. As the morning continues, they will increase, but that is below our limits right now. We're also looking at upper altitude winds. We're waiting for one more balloon, but we believe that we're going to be go. On the launch vehicle itself, the teams, the good news, they're not working any issues right now. But if for some reason we do not make our test flight today, if we have to hold, we have a backup launch window. However, we're not sure when it would be. It could be 24 or 48 hours after today. It'll depend on how far we get into the countdown. But right now, heading for a T0 at 8:28 Central, 13:28 Universal Time. Kate, everything is looking good.
Awesome news. Now, in order to make life multiplanetary, we need a fully reusable vehicle that's capable of carrying a huge amount of cargo and a lot of people to orbit and have a pretty quick turnaround. The idea is to effectively reuse launch vehicles just like airplanes.
Yeah, imagine if you had to wait for a new airplane to be constructed every time you wanted to fly. You'd rarely go anywhere, and for most of us, it would be completely unaffordable. In order for us to get to Mars and back with lots of people, lots of cargo, multiple times, reusability really is a must.
In advance of our first missions to Mars, Starship will execute a number of missions with both cargo and people, starting with Earth orbit and eventually expanding to the Moon and beyond.
Now, in the near term and a bit closer to home, Starship will also be critical to other programs. Once fully operational, it'll deliver the full-size and upgraded version of our Starlink satellites, and that's super exciting because our next generation is
Both cargo of our first missions to Mars, Starship will execute a number of missions with both cargo and people, starting with Earth orbit and eventually expanding to the Moon and beyond.
Now, in the near term and a bit closer to home, Starship will also be critical to other programs. Once fully operational, it'll deliver the full-size and upgraded version of our Starlink satellites, and that's super exciting because our next generation satellites represent a step forward in Starlink's capabilities and will allow us to connect millions of more people around the world with high-speed internet to watch launch webcasts.
Such an exciting future ahead of us, but first, let's talk a little about how we got to where we are today.
Now, Starship's testing ramped up in July of 2019 with our Starhopper prototype, sort of a short version of the Starship that we see today. There's a great photo of it. It was just over 18 meters tall. It had a single Raptor engine, and we had it to test fly and perform low-level altitude maneuvers and attempt landing. The initial test flight, or hop, reached about 20 meters in altitude. That was followed by the one that you've got on your screen here. This was our 150-meter altitude hop. We went up, took a little jaunt away, about 100 meters or so away from the launch pad, used that Raptor engine to fly and actually land. And actually, this hopper is actually down at Starbase now.
Yeah, I love this shot. It's just so fun to see it fly. After a series of 150-meter hop tests with earlier prototypes, the Starship program saw a major breakthrough during a test flight of the vehicle known as serial number 8, or SN8. You can see it there on your screen now. In December 2020, SN8 demonstrated a first-of-its-kind controlled aerodynamic descent and landing flip maneuver. 2 words: belly flop. The SN8 prototype rose to an altitude of 12.5 kilometers or 7.8 miles and conducted a belly flop maneuver, which you see there, during its descent. While it didn't stick the landing, the test was a major milestone in the development of Starship. In fact, we should be able to see that unfortunately failed landing. Boom. It was fun to watch, though.
Rapid unscheduled disassembly, but learned a lot of data.
I'm glad I didn't fucking fly in that thing.
Now, the testing continued on to prototype serial number 9. It took a 10-kilometer flight. That's about 6.2 miles up. In February of 2021, we had a nominal ascent. We executed the engine cutoffs once we got to the top of the altitude window. We did that belly flop maneuver, which is so much more fun to say than controlled descent, aerodynamic maneuver. That was all stable, but unfortunately, we had a dramatic end on this flight as well. We had a failure on one of the engines that resulted in another pretty large fireball. But what was really cool about both of those flights was how much we learned just between serial numbers 8 and 9 and how quickly we were able to achieve our primary objectives in those 2 flights. In addition to that, we got so much data that demonstrated control of the vehicle in that subsonic regime.
Ultimately, we performed 9 Starship high-altitude test flights in total. And then, as you see on your screen there, in May of 2021, SN15 launched from Starbase, reached an altitude of about 10 kilometers, performed a number of maneuvers, and safely returned to the launch site. This was the first Starship prototype to fly, control its descent, safely land, and be recovered in one piece.
And people were cheering like crazy
I was
after
one of
that
them.
test flight. Now, having achieved those successes in our suborbital campaign, one of the next big challenges is for the upper stage when it comes to reusability and surviving the hypersonic, really high heating phase of entry. Combined with the later ability to refill Starship's tank with propellants, the fuel and oxygen, while we're on orbit, that will enable us to have a fully reusable transportation system that's designed to carry both crew and cargo on long-duration missions, interplanetary flights, and will help humanity get to the moon, travel to Mars, and beyond in our solar system.
This is all just basically our path of progress, basically an iteration on each vehicle. And that iterative process is a core part of how we work here at SpaceX. We like to test early and often, publicly as well in our case, and that's both for hardware and software. And while it doesn't always go as expected, we learn so much from it, and it informs our next attempt.
Yeah, we learn a lot from actually putting the vehicle through flight-like tests. Even the test on Monday gave us an opportunity to learn more about the vehicle into today's launch attempt, and so far things are looking really good. Now, we are continuing into our...
Yo, third stage consulting, yo. Third stage consulting in the building, son.
Our countdown, we're about T-minus 12 minutes to go. I think it's a perfect time for another check-in with John Insparker. How's it going, John?
Well, Shiva, the good news is that the nets are quiet.
Third stage consulting in the building.
Boats in the safety perimeter.
Third
We're done
stage
with this.
consulting in the building.
Oddly,
Flight terminal.
Those first
providing the
base of the super heavy
Launch
booster.
the fucking rocket.
I think we can see those wiggles now.
What the fuck is that? That looks crazy.
We're currently inside 90 seconds.
That's real. That's the fucking thrusters moving around. Robotically servo, whatever the fuck that is.
Love this view. These are the 33 Raptor engines at
Next, we're waiting.
booster. I think we can
90.
wiggles now.
This shit looks cool.
We're currently inside 90 seconds. Next major.
Base of the super heavy booster. I think we can see those wiggles now.
Yo, that's just cool.
Love this view. These are the 33 Raptor engines at the base of the super heavy booster. I think we can see those wiggles now.
We're currently inside 90 seconds. Next major activity, T-minus 40 seconds. That is a gate, a decision point. We're waiting. Possibility the propulsion team may need a few minutes.
Before we team.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 8.
You can see the T.
Have product.
40-second gate. Here's the countdown.
Using views here.
It's Starbase.
fucking crazy. Look at that shit. What the fuck? Oh, it's like smoking, dude. What the hell is that? Oh, that must be the fucking liquid nitrogen cooling or whatever the hell that shit is. I forgot.
0 launch flight operations.
Damn, look at that fucking rocket, dude. Look at that freaking whatever it's called. Look at that rocket plume, son. Damn. Look at that fucking rocket plume. That's the biggest rocket plume ever. I don't know about the biggest rocket plume. It's the most. I would imagine it's the biggest. That shit was I almost forgot about the frame step feature, using the fucking comma and the period. Use like the period to go forward one frame and the comma to go backward one frame on YouTube.
Booster after chamber pressure is nominal.
Damn, look at that. Look at that thing, man. That's what's going to take people to the moon in 2025. According to their plans. I don't know what the hell caused it malfunction, but it might have to do with some overheating between the engines or some shit. Or some component. I don't know, man. Because it's so big. I don't know what else would it be. I don't know. Something. Either the pressures or the heat or something.
+33 seconds into the test flight of the inaugural Starship vehicle. Tower clear to end a pitch over. Propulsion reports first stage engines nominal. What a sight from the ground cameras at Starbase. We're flying at twice the thrust of a Saturn V heading to space.
Flying at twice the thrust of a Saturn V, dude. That's fucking crazy. Wasn't Saturn V the biggest rocket before this? So it's over twice as big. Dude, it's double the size of the most powerful rocket. Oh, that's cool, man. I'm glad I didn't ride it. Third stage consulting, yeah. Spy on people for the money, son.
Acquisition of signal, Corpus Christi.
We're throttled down and throttled back up. Going through the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure. As the velocity increases, the density of the atmosphere is decreasing,
Max Q.
lessening stress on the vehicle. The call out, max Q now. Continuing to watch the first stage as we head down range. "100 seconds into flight. Our next major activity is going to be shutdown of the first stage. Houston tracking station now acquiring the vehicle.
Explosion, explosion, explosion.
Shutdown, we will get separation of Starship from Super Heavy and ignition of the Starship engines. When Starship separates, we light up 6 engines in a staggered sequence. And if all goes well, those 6 engines will burn for almost 6.5 minutes. Onboard view from Starship. And there's views of the Raptor engines on the second stage as we prepare for stage separation. Now after stage separation, the first stage will flip and begin a boost back maneuver for landing in the Gulf.
Yeah, it's already fucked up. It's already fucked up at this point. It's not supposed to be like... There we go. Now it's really fucked up. Damn, son. That sucks. I don't really give a fuck though, but because it was still successful in my opinion. At least they didn't blow up their whole launch pad and shit. They're gonna get it down. They're still gonna go to the moon and shit. They're gonna figure out what the hell went wrong in there.
Continuing to fly, 2 minutes 40 seconds. Let's get ready for main engine cutoff.
That looks really weird.
Booster engine cutoff.
It looks like asymmetrical thrust distribution, like some of the thrusters fail. I would imagine they would keep the other parts of like the guidance system and the gyroscopes and the. It must have been thruster failure.
Stage separation.
But what caused the thruster failure? That's the key thing. That's too bad, man. I really wanted this to be a really successful flight, like go perfectly. That fucking looks awesome though. Look at that. That's cool.
As of right now, we are awaiting stage separation.
Awaiting stage separation.
Starship should separate from the Super Heavy booster.
Yeah, it's gonna separate, all right. It's gonna fucking separate.
Yeah, Kate, right now it looks like we saw the start of the flip, but obviously we're seeing from the ground cameras the entire Starship stack continuing to rotate. We should have had separation by now. Obviously, this is does not appear to be a nominal situation.
Yeah, it does appear to be spinning, but I do want to remind everyone that Everything after clearing the tower was icing on the cake. Was icing on the cake. Was icing on the cake. To be spinning, but I do want to remind everyone that everything after clearing the tower was icing on the cake. An exciting end to the Starship inaugural integrated test flight.
Everyone here absolutely pumped to clear the pad and make it this far.
Yeah, big ass rockets. Woo!
Into the test flight, the first integrated flight of the booster and the Starship vehicle.
Live view there of was icing on the cake. And there, as you saw, as we promised, an exciting end to the Starship inaugural integrated test flight. Was icing on the cake.
Well, good thing they didn't put any people on there. They should put telerobotic androids on there, though, like I told NASA to do. I think they're putting the fucking androids on there, too. I told NASA to put the androids on there. They always listen to whatever the fuck I say, too, even instantly on their fucking live feeds. Even if I'm posting in a random space channel live streaming their shit. It's fucking dope. Rob Navius is dope, and all the people that work over there, they always listen to me, so. I think they put some of their experimental androids on there. I don't know. Damn, that's a big ass explosion. I need some music. Fuck this shit. Need some goddamn kratom or some fucking oxycodone. Those goddamn stupid ass doctors. Assholes, man. They'd rather give you hundreds of milligrams equivalent for you wanting to get high, rather than give you like 5 milligrams for like fucking pain. Fuck the CDC and the DEA for doing that stupid shit to people. Stupid assholes. Just gonna look up music. It says I have 3 plays, but this is only my SoundCloud, which I haven't been active on because I fucking maximized out all the tracks. I maximized out the tracks for 3 accounts. And I still have like fucking hundreds of things to upload onto those things, but I don't care anymore. I just do reposts now. On my SoundCloud, I just do reposts for dope shit I'm listening to.
Sleep, codeine.
I can't fuck with you, fuck with you.
Dig a pussy boy grave in his face, look so swole. Why you do him like that? Why you made his mama cry? I never gave a fuck, I'm not that simping type of guy.
Yeah, man, coaster.
This is DJ Hunter for your bitch ass.
Man, get down, lay down, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I ain't riding with the dope, trying to make it to the house. If the 12 pull me over, it's finna be a shootout. If them niggas kick my dope, it's finna be a shootout. Ain't nothing finna leave this house, all money in, no money out. These pussies know what I'm talking about. Trying to play me like I'm soft. 2 2 3 off the teeth and knock your fucking noodles off. Posted with my nigga Burger on the block, smoking on some op pack. Pussy nigga, what you think about that? Sliding in that Hummer, feeling like a fucking stunner, boy. All you niggas pussy, boy. Y'all niggas don't wanna, boy. Me and Judah so pretty, slide ride in the city. Put your bitch in the top, while I'm rubbing on the titties.
Try to keep my dough, I turn my house into a batting cage. Louisville slugger to your face. You don't wanna play, I've been through the struggle, so I never had a fear. Lay a motherfucker down while I'm chugging on my beer. See what I want, I'ma take that shit. Pull up to my house, Paco shooting at your face, bitch. Small circle, small fam, I don't trust a soul. Dig a pussy boy grave in his face, look so swole. Why you do him like that? Why you made his mama cry? I never gave a fuck, I'm not that simping top I got. Me and P2 in the tone with the 40 Glocks, taking every fucking thing. If your fucking polo socks, you buzzing.
They on some lame shit, Wayne.
The hell look good, flop it, watch your language. All my doors, dope and stainless. Keep it dirty, leave your brainless. Undertaking, chalk line. Now we duck it one time. Still push back to the front line. Work on me, all about mine. Posted in the daylight tonight. White powder bags like ice. Can't put your price. Wanna play with your life, boy? Is it worth it? I keep fucking on sister. Hey, your baby mama sold me up right after the service. I'm so nervous. The influence and group. Show for my troops, got a tip for the tooth. Don't you act up, boy, I run your group. Well, fuck the other side. I know Uber's on 2 5. See, I ain't walking, throwing signs. Ain't one tripping, toes. I don't want good no more. But this the only life that 100,000 soldiers know. Rap it, fast it, back it, trap it, boom. Any work, do magic, stack it, keep it packing, and I boom it off this second. I don't want jug no more. But this the only life that 100,000 soldiers know. Rap it, fast it, back it, trap it, boom. Any work, do magic, keep it stacking, keep it packing, and I boom it off this second. Still booming fast, still booming fast. I work with the work like it's all I ever had. You're like Kirby, ain't you happy? But I see you with them G's. All my cousins keep it cracking and free my rounds in the precinct. Boy.
Oh yeah, I was looking for fucking like Loud Lord Roboto or some like robot shit. What the fuck was it called? That's what I'm looking for. I'll just do it in a search. I don't know why I'm looking up. Oh yeah, this is the one.
Passion players. stars painting the starry night, while your man giving me a shoulder rub. You heard?
Double cup my styrofoam. 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 Double cup my styrofoam.
fuck he be doing? It's DJ Smokey. Shadow Wizard, clouded insanity. Puke Radio, we make your eardrums bark. Fucked up This song made my dog puke everywhere.
OPM messing pre-workout on my frenzy timing. OPM messing pre-workout on my frenzy timing. I shoot myself in the head just to hit you. I don't drink water no more, I just drink puke. I don't play with living beings no more, just dead people. I don't shoot for the stars, I'ma crush them in my hand. If you wanna come with me again, then let it come again. It's a never-ending story, so I can never end.
What the fuck? This song made me puke everywhere.
OPM messing pre-workout on my frenzy timing. 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 Real grave man, you ain't never kissed a zombie. Real grave man, I got that shit on me. Real grave man, you ain't never hugged a zombie. Real grave man, you not a zombie, you a person. Don't talk to me, wanna focus, bitch, I'm working. Money got a flat ass, my money's working. My money say that thing like I spy. Your money friend zone, you I'm on a frenzy. If you don't like me, come check me. Check me, check me, check me, check me, check me, check me, check, check, check. Check me, check me, check me, check me, check me, check me, check, check, check.
Puke Radio. Oh my god, he's fucking puking.
Warning, new music may damage your eardrums and hurt your soul.
It's been so many years that you've been gone. I doing right, but they say that I doing wrong. Pull up in that vat, they like, nephew, you dead wrong. Got your hand out, what type of shit?
Nuke Radio.
Frames on my face like usual. She like, nephew, I ain't asked for shit, how I'm used.
You're tuned into. You're in the right place for shitty music.
Gas to the pedal, teacups and kettles. Too nerd, never know I'm too way out. I'm too fourth wall, find a new way out.
We just broke through the fourth wall. The fourth wall.
Gas to the pedal, teacups and kettles. Too nerd, never know I'm too way out. I'm too fourth wall, find a new way out. 50 MGs, watch me melt to the ground. Gas to the pedal, teacups and kettles. Too nerd, never know I'm too way out. I'm too fourth wall, find a new way out. 50 MGs, watch me melt to the ground. My girl so sweet, but she hold me out. My girl so sweet, but she hold me down. Went from third to designer on the clothing now. Couple racks ain't shit, watch me bust more. Shit.
I get more money off of selling stone. I'm selling crack. Certified street killer, and all my cut gorilla. They all gorilla. A1 with the aim, they take out your brain, but it's gorilla. off a selling. I'm selling it crack. So the boss. I'm selling it crack. So the boss street killer. Selling stone. I'm selling it crack. So the boss street killer and all my cut gorilla. They all gorilla. A1 with the aim, they take out your brain, but it's gorilla. Lean that trap, super strap. Yo ass is rap. You a pussy ass kid, just a little low. I get more money off of selling stone. I'm selling it crack. So the boss street killer and all my cut gorilla. They all gorilla. A1 with the aim, they take out your brain, but it's gorilla. Lean that trap, super strap. Yo ass is rap. You a pussy ass kid, just a little low. I get more money off of selling stone. I'm selling it crack. So the boss street killer and all my cut gorilla. They all gorilla. A1 with the aim, they take out your brain, but it's gorilla. Lean that trap, super strap. Yo ass is rap. You a pussy ass kid, just a little low. I get more money off of selling stone. I'm selling it crack. So the boss street killer and all my cut gorilla. They all gorilla. A1 with the aim, they take out your brain, but it's gorilla. Lean that trap, super strap. Yo ass is rap. know I'm selling that crack. Certified street killer. And all my cut gorilla. They all gorilla. A1 with the aim, they take out your brain. But it's gorilla. Lean. Never trap, super strap. Your ass is rap. You a pussy ass. I'm selling that crack. Certified street killer. And all my cut gorilla. life. On gritty, I done earned my stripes. I done get 6 pack, I ain't talking Bud Light. 3 ounces dropping sands in my Sprite. North Pole on me, all ice. In the dark, I could provide a light. Lighthouse, red rum when I see him on sight. Point blank, ain't no thinking twice.
Evil ways, pussy.
Bitch, I'm living, I don't spend it, I get more. Real big, all 100 on them poles. Drippin' pimpin', I've been sippin', sellin' yo. Since a dick on the same shit, never change. Flip a script, watch me get true to that game. On game, rappers name that one real. 100 to the depth, I never spill. Still pop pills, I'ma always sip ball. Ain't gon' make it fall when I start pulling cars. Always on me, cause I might not see tomorrow. But I can't even stress it, put it in a golf. On the 4-way, bitches love it, they love it. Clap, get his back, and get ugly. 3-piece in the biscuit and some bubs. Take your pack, turn 10 in the
Curry Main, triple 6, brother.
Like your block set up shop, fuck your kind. Fuck your set, no such thing as rewind. No, think I'm playing, I still go blind. LP one never open on the north side. Down on the court with the torch, I ain't never lied. Solo dollar one deep, motherfucker friend. What you need, come and peep, I be getting it in. 100 down, it's my life. On gritty, I done earned my stripes. I done get 6 pack, I ain't talking Bud Light. 3 ounces dropping sands in my Sprite. North Pole on me, all ice. In the dark, I could provide a light. Lighthouse, red rum when I see him on sight. Point blank, ain't no thinking twice.
Evil ways, pussy.
Bitch, I'm living, I don't spend it, I get more. Real big, all 100 on them poles. Drippin' pimpin', I've been sippin', sellin' yo. Since a dick on the same shit, never change. Flip a script, watch me get true to that game. On game, rappers name that one real. 100 to the depth, I never spill. Still pop pills, I'ma always sip ball. Ain't gon' make it fall when I start pulling cars. Always on me, cause I might not see tomorrow. But I can't even stress it, put it in a golf. On the 4-way, bitches love it, they love it. Clap, get his back, and get ugly. 3-piece in the biscuit and some bubs. Take your pack, turn 10 in the
Curry Main, triple 6, brother.
Like your block set up shop, fuck your kind. Fuck your set, no such thing as rewind. No, think I'm playing, I still go blind. LP one never open on the north side. Down on the court with the torch, I ain't never lied. Solo dollar one deep, motherfucker friend. What you need, come and peep, I be getting it in. 100 down, it's my life. On gritty, I done earned my stripes. I done get 6 pack, I ain't talking Bud Light. 3 ounces dropping sands in my Sprite. North Pole on me, all ice. In the dark, I could provide a light. Lighthouse, red rum when I see him on sight. Point blank, ain't no thinking twice.
Evil ways, pussy.
Bitch, I'm living, I don't spend it, I get more. Real big, all 100 on them poles. Drippin' pimpin', I've been sippin', sellin' yo. Since a dick on the same shit, never change. Flip a script, watch me get true to that game. On game, rappers name that one real. 100 to the depth, I never spill. Still pop pills, I'ma always sip ball. Ain't gon' make it fall when I start pulling cars. Always on me, cause I might not see tomorrow. But I can't even stress it, put it in a golf. On the 4-way, bitches love it, they love it. Clap, get his back, and get ugly. 3-piece in the biscuit and some bubs. Take your pack, turn 10 in the
Curry Main, triple 6, brother.
Like your block set up shop, fuck your kind. Fuck your set, no such thing as rewind. No, think I'm playing, I still go blind. LP one never open on the north side. Down on the court with the torch, I ain't never lied. Solo dollar one deep, motherfucker friend. What you need, come and peep, I be getting it in. 100 down, it's my life. On gritty, I done earned my stripes. I done get 6 pack, I ain't talking Bud Light. 3 ounces dropping sands in my Sprite. North Pole on me, all ice. In the dark, I could provide a light. Lighthouse, red rum when I see him on sight. Point blank, ain't no thinking twice.
Evil ways, pussy.
Bitch, I'm living, I don't spend it, I get more. Real big, all 100 on them poles. Drippin' pimpin', I've been sippin', sellin' yo. Since a dick on the same shit, never change. Flip a script, watch me life. On gritty, I done earned my stripes. I done did 6 pack, I ain't talking one light. 3 ounces dropping sands in my Sprite. North Pole on me, all ice. North Pole in the dark, I could provide the light. Lighthouse, red rum when I see him on sight. Point blank, ain't no thinking twice.
Evil ways, pussy.
Cause I'm living, I don't spend it, I get more, real big, all 100 on them pole, I've been sipping, selling yo, since a chick on the same shit, never change, flip a script, watch me whip, true to the game, on game, rappers name, man, one real, 100 to the depth, I never spill, still pop pills, I'ma always sip ball, ain't gon' make it fall when I start pulling cars, always on me, cause I might not see tomorrow, but I can't even stress it, put it in the golf, on the 4-way, black bitches love it, they love it, black, get it back, it get ugly. 3 piece in the biscuit and some bubs. Take your pack, turn 10 in the
Curry Main, 666, brother.
Like your block, set up shop, fuck your kind. Fuck your set, no such thing as rewind. No, think I'm playing, I still go blind. LP 100 on the north side. Down on the court with the torch, I ain't never lied. Solo dollar, one deep, motherfucker friend. What you need, come and peep, I be getting it in. 100 down, it's my life. On gritty, I done earned my stripes. I done did 6 pack, I ain't talking one light. 3 ounces dropping sands in my Sprite. North Pole on me, all ice. North Pole in the dark, I could provide a light. Lighthouse, red rum when I see him on sight. Point blank, ain't no thinking twice.
Evil ways, pussy.
Cause I'm living, I don't spend it, I get more, real big, all 100 on them poles, drippin' pimpin', I've been sippin', selling yo, since a chick on the same shit, never change, flip a script, watch me whip, true to the game, on game, rappers name, man, one real, 100 to the depth, I never spill, still pop pills, I'ma always sip ball, ain't gon' make it fall. Start pulling cars, always on me, cause I might not see tomorrow, but I can't even stress it, put it in the golf, on the 4-way, black bitches love it, they love it, black, get it back, it get ugly, 3 piece in the biscuit and some bubs, take your pack, turn 10 in the
Curry Main, 6, brother.
Like your block, set up shop, fuck your kind, fuck your set, no such thing as rewind. No, think I'm playing, I still go blind. LP 100 on the north side. Down on the court with the torch, I ain't never lied. Solo dollar, one deep, motherfucker friend. What you need, come and peep, I be getting it in. Down, it's my life. On gritty, I done earned my stripes. I done did 6 pack, I ain't talking one light. 3 ounces dropping sands in my Sprite. North Pole on me, all ice. North Pole in the dark, I could provide a light. Lighthouse, red rum when I see him on sight. Point blank, ain't no thinking twice.
Evil.
Cause I'm living, I don't spend it, I get more, real big, all 100 on them poles, drippin' pimpin', I've been sippin', selling yo, since a chick on the same shit, never change, flip a script, watch me whip, true to the game, on game, rappers name, man, one real, 100 to the depth, I never spill, still pop pills, I'ma always sip ball, ain't gon' make it fall when I start pulling cars, always on me, cause I might not see tomorrow, but I can't even stress it, put it in the golf, on the 4-way, black bitches love it, they love it, black, get it back, it get ugly, 3 piece in the biscuit and some bubs, take your pack, turn 10 in the Curry Main, 666, brother.
Like your block set up shop, fuck your kind. Fuck your set, no such thing as rewind. No, think I'm playing, I still go blind. LP 100 on the north side. Down on the court with the torch, I ain't never lied. Solo dollar one deep, motherfucker friend. What you need, come and peep, I be getting it in. 100 down, it's my life. On gritty, I done earned my stripes. I done did 6 pack, I ain't talking one light. 3 ounces dropping sands in my Sprite. North Pole on me, all ice. In the dark, I could provide a light. Lighthouse, red run when I see him on sight. Point blank, ain't no thinking twice.
Either way.
Wow, bitch, I'm flipping, I don't spin it, I get mo. Real big, dog, 100 on them hoes. Drippin' pimpin', I been sippin', sellin' yo. Since a jit on the same shit, never change. Flip a script, watch me get true to that game. On game, rappers lame, man, one real. 100 to the depth, I never spill. Still pop pills, I'ma always sip ball. Ain't gon' make it fall when I start pulling cars. Always on me, cause I might not see tomorrow. But I can't even stress it, put it in a golf. On the 4-way, black bitches love it. They love it. Clap, get it back, it get ugly. 3 piece in the biscuit and some bubbles. Take your pack, turn 10 in the
Curry Main, 666, brother.
Like your block set up shop, fuck your kind. Fuck your set, no such thing as rewind. No, think I'm playing, I still go blind. LP 100 on the north side. Down on the court with the torch, I ain't never lied. Solo dollar one deep, motherfucker friend. What you need, come and peep, I be getting it in. 100 down, it's my life. On gritty, I done earned my stripes. I done did 6 pack, I ain't talking one light. 3 ounces dropping sands in my Sprite. North Pole on me, all ice. In the dark, I could provide a light. Lighthouse, red run when I see him on sight. Point blank, ain't no thinking twice.
Either ways, pussy.
Wow, bitch, I'm flipping, I don't spin it, I get mo. Real big, dog, 100 on them hoes. Drippin' pimpin', I been sippin', sellin' yo. Since a jit on the same shit, never change.
Flex code in the goop. Chop on the flex code, curve the goop. 100,000.
You're listening to DJ Smokey.
You already know how we roll. Smokey. Big Smokey, big chopper, big curve. Post on the curb, slanging them bars. Nigga want beat, the nigga get served. He don't wanna work, he just might get murked. The chopper bit the earth in my turf. The earth in my turf. Bitch, you know I just serve. This little chopper on a little curve. In the trap house, come right now. Mouth full of gold, check a nigga out. I ain't seen no bitch in a little while. Used to try to play me, now she wanna fuck me now. I used to smoke mid, now I smoke loud. In the mud, but I'm dripping like a crocodile. Trapping in the club like a trap house. Block, 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 shoot a nigga down. Block, block, block with my 50 count. She on my dick now, and I'm like, wow. Block, 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 that's how my 50 sound. Bitch on my dick now, on the shit now. She look like my sword, she look like my style. Chopper smoke a nigga like a fucking mom. Yeah, it's caught a murder charge, still this shit a trial. Little chopper bitch, all the gold when I smile. Been rapping since I was a juvenile. Been selling crack since I was a juvenile. count. She on my dick now, and she on my blah 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 with my 50 count. She on my dick now, and I'm like wow. Blah blah blah, that's how my 50 sound. Bitch on my dick now, on the shit now. She just like my sword, she just like my style. Chopper smoke a nigga like a fucking mom. Yeah, it's caught a murder charge, still this shit a trial. Little chopper bitch, all the gold when I smile. Been rapping since I was a juvenile. Been selling crack since I was a juvenile. Been fucking hoes since I was a juvenile. Been kicking dope since I was a juvenile. Real street nigga, check my profile. I'm from the west side where it's real wild. Wild, wild west, yeah, I'm real wild. You can really ask my granny, I'm a problem child. I'm the one for the baddest bitch in the crowd. You fucking young hoes like a pedophile. Little chopper, I'm so icy like a snowplow. I would go broke, but I don't know how. Glass 17 cup full of lean. Little chopper off the molly, I ain't off a bean. I only sell crack, I don't sell dreams. I ain't shit, but the bitch treat me like a king. Dirty Sprite make it dark like some caffeine. Young nigga trapping, I was in limousine. Dirty nigga, but I'm clean like my hygiene. In my first leg, I was only 13. Took a nigga Game Boy, like what you mean? Next day I'm back jumping on his trampoline. 13 smoking dope, rolling off a bean. By the age of 14, I was sipping lean. In the trap house, come right now. Mouth full of gold, check a nigga out. I ain't seen no bitch in a little while. Used to try to play me, now she wanna fuck me now. Used to smoke me and I smoke loud. In the mud and I'm dripping like a crocodile. Trapping in the club like it's a try house. Blow, 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 shoot a nigga down. Blow, 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 with my 50 count. She on my dick now and I'm like wow, wow. Blow, blow, on my 50 sound. Bitch on my dick now, on the shit now.
Wow, 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 wow. Bitch, I flip it, I don't spin it, I get mo. Real big dog, 100 on them hoes. Drippin' pimpin', I been sippin', sellin' yo. Since a chick on the same shit, never change. Drip a script, watch me whip, true to that game. On game, rappers lame, man, one real. 100 to that death, I never split. Still pop pills, I'ma always sip ball. Ain't gon' make it fall when I start pulling cars. Always on me, cause I might not see tomorrow. But I can't even stress it, put it in the guard. On the 4-way, black bitches love me. Clap, clap, get his back, it get ugly. 3 piece in the biscuit and some bubbles. Take your pack, turn 10 into 20. Money, that's mine. Like your block, set up shop, fuck your kind. Fuck your set, no such thing as rewind. No, think I'm playing, I still go blind. LP 100 on the north side. On the court with the torch, I ain't never lied. Solo dollar, one deep, motherfucker friend. What you need, come and peep, I be getting it in. 100 down, it's my life. On granny, I done earned my stripes. I done did it, 6 pack, I ain't talking Bud Light. 3 ounces, dropping sands in my Sprite. North Pole on me, all ice. In the dark, I could provide a light. Lighthouse, red rum when I see him on sight. Point blank, ain't no thinking twice.
Dabaholics. Legalize nuclear bombs.
Damn, son. This must be a DJ Smokey exclusive.
Smoking is bad for your health, especially when it's your own flesh you're smoking.
Nuke Radio.
Problem solved. I leave myself and I follow myself. If I talk to, I bother myself. Lifeless ex-employee. That quick, got another there for me. Quick, cause gone, but my life is boring. Not till I wake, not till I'm snoring. Sweat around out of chest, and I never laid up. Can't remember where I'm at. I just stepped up my serious shit. I'm a gas who I'm
about what the fuck he be doing. It's DJ Smokey.
And then showing notable and found himself.
This real Drake music.
Nuke Radio.
Like to the party, also let you in. Easy and serious, some children criminal.
Let me call my boy DJ Screw Up. See what my partner up to.
Morning Magnolia, coming deep out the fucking south. If I did get it out, it's about what I'm out, dick, out, more dick, out, dick, out, and I'm out, and I'm out.
No, you gonna dig this.
School 7 with the antique tag. My pocket's so heavy that I can't walk steady. Copper ice, we done done it already. Icy, so icy. We 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 icy, so icy. She called me on my telephone. Her house at home was a cook. She said I live by the code. I got this bitch on my phone. She know I died by the code. So asking shit I don't know. Be my home for GI toes. 990s all on my toes. DMV bitch, that's my home. Come and get some old bitch. Yeah, come and float. Smell of water all in her nose. I got her on the lid. She talking about some kill mode. Doing smash, smoking proof. High tech, double push. How I flex this the truth. She like my sex, she love my shoes. I bust some bands for these shoes. I bust some bands for these shoes. Cash out on her brand new coat. Cash out on her brand new woods. I get niggas, yeah, they bubbles, yeah, they bitches, yeah, they phone. She called me on my telephone. Her house at home was a cook. She said I live by the code. I got this bitch on my phone. She know I died by the code. So asking shit I don't know. Be my home for GI toes. 990s all on my toes. DMV bitch, that's my home. Come and get some old bitch. Yeah, come and float. Smell of water all in her nose. I got her on the lid. She talking about some kill mode.
Rockstar, my swag, I'm just honest. Everything inside the gun, just honest. Gold all on my neck, I'm just honest. Yeah, I'm just honest, I'm just honest. Got the plug on smash, on smash, on smash. Yeah, name no nigga hot, I'm just
Slay.
Warning.
Beats.
Where'd you find this?
This is Cody Vogel.
That thing on roll, buddy. So, we're faded decade. You probably know that.
Shit, a lot of killers with me. No, you can't motherfucking hang, little nigga. Stop saying you robbing your songs, boy. You ain't hear no stain, little nigga. I'm into a Mary Jane, little nigga. Keeping your pants, just put the LeBron on them, nigga. Send them little niggas that ain't at you, nigga. Give me a bone. Gang shit, a lot of killers with me. No, you can't motherfucking hang, little nigga. Stop saying you robbing your songs, boy. You ain't hear no stain, little nigga. I'm into a Mary Jane, little nigga. Keeping your pants, just put the LeBron on them, nigga. Send them little niggas that ain't at you, nigga.
I see 7 thrusters that failed. See, there's 7 thrusters there that failed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 thrusters failed and then it's fucking exploded.
Continuing to watch the first stage as we head down range. 100 seconds into flight. Our next major activity is going to be shutdown of the first stage. Houston tracking station now acquiring the vehicle. With shutdown, we will get separation of Starship and Super Heavy and ignition of the Starship engines. When Starship separates, we light up 6 engines in a staggered sequence. If all goes well, those 6 engines will burn for almost 6.5 minutes. Onboard view from Starship. And there's views of the Raptor engines on the second stage as we prepare for stage separation. Now after stage separation, the first stage will flip and begin a boost back maneuver for landing in the Gulf. Continuing to fly, 2 minutes 40 seconds, let's get ready for main engine call. Beginning the flip for stage separation. Continuing to watch the first stage as we head down range. As we head down range. Continuing to watch the first stage as we head down range. Seconds into flight. Our next major activity is going to be shutdown of the first stage. The Houston tracking station now acquiring the vehicle. With shutdown, we will get separation of Starship and Super Heavy and ignition of the Starship engines. When Starship separates, we light up 6 engines in a staggered sequence. If all goes well, those 6 engines will burn for almost 6.5 minutes. Onboard view from Starship. And there's views of the Raptor engines will burn for almost 6.5 minutes. Onboard view from...
If I have a gun in my possession, you could. Would you? If I got to, yeah. If I want it, I'm going to get out there and get it.
How many times have I walked these blocks that are always the same? They don't change.
Starship. And there's views of the Raptor engines on the engines in a staggered sequence. If all goes well, those 6 engines will burn for almost 6.5 minutes. Onboard view from Starship. And there's views of the Raptor engines on the second stage as we prepare for stage separation. Now after stage separation, the first stage will flip and begin a boost back maneuver for landing in the Gulf. Continuing to fly, 2 minutes 40 seconds, let's get ready for main engine cutoff.
Restriction cutoff.
Beginning the flip for stage separation. Beginning the flip for stage separation.
He said beginning to flip for stage separation.
continuing to watch the first stage as we head downrange.
Alright, that's enough of this stupid shit. Where's the fucking aliens at? Where's the fucking alien, son? Oh shit, I fucked up. It posted that it was South Asia. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. Ah, I copied the wrong fucking description. Damn it, I'm gonna delete it. I meant Iraq. I said South Asia on that. I keep fucking goddamn copying and posting that shit. I don't even fucking know. Whatever. Ping pong ding dong. That is stupid. look up AARO hearings Senate. Where did we watch it? We watched it on Witness Citizen. Witness Citizen. Fitness Citizen. What the fuck? Witness Citizen.
So I told him the whole story.
Okay, let's put that off. We'll save that for the closed door. Door. Now,
While we know that Arrow has already conducted a significant number of interviews, many referred by Congress, a very difficult mission. While we have made progress,
after the disclosure event, the world is going to be profoundly different. Profoundly different. So we could spend days and months trying to itemize each little change, right? Okay. But we don't have days or months.
Dr. Sean
So-
Kirkpatrick
Here we go, guys.
testifying here and in today's earlier closed
We're ready
session,
to go.
and for his long and distinguished career, both in the intelligence community and in the Department of Defense. Dr. Kirkpatrick is the director of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW. Congress established this office in law to get to the bottom of the very serious problem of unidentified anomalous phenomenon, or UAP. Dr. Kirkpatrick has a very difficult mission. While we have made progress, there remains a stigma attached to these phenomenon. There is a vast and complex citizen engagement, and there's also very challenging scientific and technical hurdles. So we appreciate the willingness of Dr. Kirkpatrick to lean in on this issue and the work that he has accomplished thus far. And we look forward to both his opening statement and his presentation of examples of the work Arrow has done. In late 2017, media reports surfaced about activities set in motion by the late long-serving Majority Leader Senator Harry Reid more than a decade ago. We learned that there was strong evidence of advanced technology reflected in the features and performance characteristics of many objects observed by our highly trained service members operating top-of-the-line military equipment. We learned that for the past 8 years, military pilots frequently encountered unknown objects in controlled airspace off both the east and west coasts across the continental United States in test and training areas and ranges. We don't know where they come from, who made them, or how they operate. As former Deputy Secretary of Defense David Norquist observed, had any of these objects had the label "Made in China," there would be an uproar in the government and media. There would be no stone unturned and no effort spared to find out what we were dealing with. We can look at the recent incursion of the unidentified PRC high-altitude balloon as an example. But because of the UFO stigma, the response has been irresponsibly anemic and slow. Congress established Arrow. We made it clear that we expect vigorous action. We added very substantial initial funding for the office, but despite our best efforts, the president's budget for fiscal years 23 and 24 requested only enough funding to defray the operating expenses of Arrow. It included almost no funds to sustain the critical research and development necessary to support a serious investigation. It took a letter to Secretary Austin from Senator Rubio and me and 14 other senators to get the office temporary relief for the current fiscal year. In this hearing, I intend to probe a series of specific issues. In the recent incidents where multiple objects were shot down over North America, it seemed that Pentagon leadership did not turn to Arrow office to play a leading role in advising the combatant commander. We need to know whether this will continue. We need to know whether the leadership in DoD will bring Arrow into the decision-making process in a visible way. And we need to know what role Arrow will play in interagency coordination after the NSC working group disbands. In the fiscal year 2023 National Defense and Intelligence Authorization Acts, Congress established a direct reporting chain from the Arrow Director to the Deputy Secretary of Defense. The role of the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security is limited to providing administrative support. We need to know how this direction is being implemented. UAP are frequently observed flying in extremely high or very low speeds and come in various sizes and shapes. During the recent shootdowns over North America, DoD disclosed that filters on radar systems were adjusted to allow for detection and tracking of diverse sets of objects for the first time. While opening the aperture can overload the real-time analytic process, we cannot keep turning a blind eye to surveillance data that is critical to detecting and tracking UAP. We need to know whether Dr. Kirkpatrick can achieve the necessary control over sensor filters and the storage and access to raw surveillance data to find UAP anomalies. Finally, one of the tasks Congress set for AARO is serving as an open door for witnesses of UAP events or participants in government activities related to UAPs to come forward securely and disclose what they know without fear of retribution for any possible violations of previously signed non-disclosure agreements. Congress mandated that AARO set up a publicly discoverable and accessible process for safe disclosure. While we know that AARO has already conducted a significant number of interviews, many referred by Congress, we need to set up a public process and we need to know where that effort stands. With that, I'd like to turn to Senator Ernst for her opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Kirkpatrick, for your testimony today. I'll keep these remarks very brief so that we have maximum time for your briefing. The recent downing of the Chinese surveillance balloon and 3 other objects underscores the need for domain awareness. Adversaries like China and Russia are working to hold U.S. interests, including our homeland, at risk. That's why your testimony is so important. And I so look forward to a progress update on the establishment of your office. As members know, your office evolved from the Navy-led Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force to the All-Domain Anomalous Resolution Office, known as AARO. Dr. Kirkpatrick, your extensive background in science and technology, research and development, and space makes you well-suited to discuss these emerging challenges. My priority is that we understand the full range of threats posed by our adversaries in all domains. That is what the Joint Force needs to be prepared to fight and win in defense of our nation. This committee needs to know about Chinese or Russian advanced technology programs to exploit our vulnerabilities. And it needs to know whether your office, along with the IC, has detected potential Chinese or Russian capabilities to surveil or attack us. Finally, we need to ensure efficient interagency coordination. Multiple elements of the DoD and IC own a piece of this mission. To add value, AARO's efforts cannot be redundant with others. Thank you again. We look forward to your testimony.
Dr. Kirkpatrick, you can give your testimony.
Thank you, Chairwoman Gillibrand, Ranking Member Ernst, distinguished members of the subcommittee. It's a privilege to be here today to testify on the defense's efforts to address unidentified anomalous phenomena. First, I want to thank Congress for its extensive and continued partnership as the department works to better understand and respond to UAP in an effort to minimize technical and intelligence surprise. Unidentified objects in any domain pose potential risks to safety and security, particularly from military personnel and capabilities. Congress and DoD agree that UAP cannot remain unexamined or unaddressed. We are grateful for sustained congressional engagement on this issue, which paved the way for the DoD's establishment of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in July of last year. Though AARO is still a young office, the spotlight on UAP in recent months underscores the importance of its work and the need for UAP to be taken seriously as a matter of national security. All leadership that I've had the pleasure of working with as a matter of national security, its work and the need for UAP to be taken seriously as a matter of national. national security. All leadership that I've had the pleasure of working with, whether DoD, IC, DOE, civil, scientific, or industrial, view Congress as a critical partner in this endeavor. ARROW has accomplished much in the last 9 months since it was established. The ARROW team of more than 36 experts is organized around 4 functional areas: operations, scientific research, integrated analysis, and strategic communications. In the 9 months since ARROW's establishment, we've taken important steps to involve and improve UAP data integrated in this issue or unaddressed. Congress and DoD agree that UAP cannot remain unexamined or unaddressed. We are grateful for sustained congressional engagement on this issue, which paved the way for the DoD's establishment of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in July of last year. Though ARROW is still a young office, the spotlight on UAP in recent months underscores the importance of its work and the need for UAP to be taken seriously as a matter of national security. All leadership that I've had the pleasure of working with, whether DoD, IC, DOE, civil, scientific, or industrial, view Congress as a critical partner in this endeavor. ARROW has accomplished much in the last 9 months since it was established. The ARROW team of more than 36 experts is organized around 4 functional areas: operations, scientific research, integrated analysis, and strategic communications. In the 9 months since ARROW's establishment, we've taken important steps to involve and improve UAP data collection, standardize the department's UAP internal reporting requirements, and implement a framework for rigorous scientific and intelligence analysis, allowing us to resolve cases in a systematic and prioritized manner. Meanwhile, consistent with legislative direction, ARROW is also carefully reviewing and researching the U.S. government's UAP-related historical record. ARROW is leading a focused effort to better characterize, understand, and attribute UAP, with priority given to UAP reports by DoD and IC personnel in or near areas of national security importance. DoD fully appreciates the eagerness from many quarters, especially here in Congress and in the American public, to quickly resolve every UAP encountered across the globe from the distant past through today. It's important to note, however, ARROW is the culmination of decades of DoD, intelligence community, and congressionally directed efforts to successfully resolve UAP encountered first and foremost by U.S. military personnel, specifically Navy and Air Force pilots. The law establishing ARROW is ambitious, and it will take time to realize the full mission. We cannot answer decades of questions about UAP all at once, but we must begin somewhere. While I assure you that ARROW will follow scientific evidence wherever it leads, I ask for your patience as DoD first prioritizes the safety and security of our military personnel and installations in all domains. After all, a UAP encountered first by highly capable DoD and IC platforms, featuring the nation's most advanced sensors, are those UAP most likely to be resolved by my office, assuming the data can be collected. If ARROW succeeds in first improving the ability of military personnel to quickly and confidently resolve UAP they encounter, I believe that in time we will have greatly advanced the capability of the entire United States government, including its civilian agencies, to resolve UAP. However, it would be naive to believe that the resolution of all UAP can be solely accomplished by the DoD and IC alone. We will need to prioritize collection and leverage authorities for monitoring all domains within the continental United States. ARROW's ultimate success will require partnerships with the interagency, industry partners, academia, and the scientific community, as well as the public. ARROW is partnering with the services, intelligence community, DOE, as well as civil partners and across the U.S. government to tap into the resources of the interagency. The UAP challenge is more an operational and scientific issue than it is an intelligence issue. As such, we are working with industry, academia, and the scientific community, which bring their own resources, ideas, and expertise to this challenging problem set. Robust collaboration and peer review across a broad range of partners will promote greater objectivity and transparency in the study of UAP. I want to underscore today that only a very small percentage of UAP reports display signatures that could reasonably be described as anomalous. The majority of unidentified objects reported to ARROW demonstrate mundane characteristics of balloons, unmanned aerial systems, clutter, natural phenomena, or other readily explainable sources. While a large number of cases in our holdings remain technically unresolved, this is primarily due to a lack of data associated with those cases. Without sufficient data, we are unable to reach defendable conclusions that meet the high scientific standards we set for resolution, and I will not close a case that I cannot defend the conclusions of. I recognize that this answer is unsatisfying to those who in good faith assume that what they see with their eyes, with their cameras, and with their radars is incontrovertible evidence of extraordinary characteristics and performance. Yet time and again, with sufficient scientific quality data, it is fact that UAP often, but not always, resolve into readily explainable sources. Humans are subject to deception and illusions, sensors to unexpected responses and malfunctions, and in some cases, intentional interference. Getting to the handful of cases that pass this level of scrutiny is the mission of ARROW. That is not to say that UAP, once resolved, are no longer of national security interest, however. On the contrary, learning that a UAP isn't of exotic origin, but is instead just a quadcopter or a balloon, leads to the question of who is operating that quadcopter and to what purpose. The answers to those questions will inform potential national security or law enforcement responses. ARROW is a member of the department's support to the administration's Tiger Team effort to deal with stratospheric objects such as the PRC high-altitude balloon. When previously unknown objects are successfully identified, it is ARROW's role to quickly and efficiently hand off such readily explainable objects to the intelligence, law enforcement, or operational safety communities for further analysis and appropriate action. In other words, ARROW's mission is to turn UAP into SEP, somebody else's problem. The U.S. government, the DoD and the IC in particular, has tremendous capabilities to deal with those encountered objects. In the wake of the PRC HAB event, the interagency is working to better integrate and share information to address identifiable stratospheric objects, but that is not ARROW's lane. Meanwhile, for the few cases in all domains, space, air, and sea, that do demonstrate potentially anomalous characteristics, ARROW exists to help the DoD, IC, and interagency resolve those anomalous cases. In doing so, ARROW is approaching these cases with the highest level of objectivity and analytic rigor. This includes physically testing and employing modeling and simulation to validate our analyses and underlying theories, then peer reviewing those results within the U.S. government, industry partners, and appropriately cleared academic institutions before reaching any conclusions. I should also state clearly for the record that in our research, ARROW has found no credible evidence thus far of extraterrestrial activity, off-world technology, or objects that defy the known laws of physics. In the event sufficient scientific data were ever obtained that a UAP encountered can only be explained by extraterrestrial origin, we are committed to working with our interagency partners at NASA to appropriately inform U.S. government's leadership of its findings. For those few cases that have leaked to the public previously and subsequently commented on by the U.S. government, I encourage those who hold alternative theories or views to submit your research to credible peer-reviewed scientific journals. ARROW is working very hard to do the same. That is how science works, not by blog or social media. We know that there is tremendous public interest in UAP and a desire for answers from ARROW. By its very nature, the UAP challenge has for decades lent itself to mystery, sensationalism, and even conspiracy. For that reason, ARROW remains committed to transparency, accountability, and to sharing as much with the American public as we can, consistent with our obligation to protect not only intelligence sources and methods, but U.S. and allied capabilities. However, ARROW's work will take time if we are committed to do it right. It means adhering to the scientific method and the highest standards of research integrity. It means being methodical and scrupulous. It means withholding judgment in favor of evidence. It means following the data where it leads, wherever it leads. It means establishing scientific peer-reviewed theoretical underpinnings of observed data. And ARROW is committed to all of those standards. I'm proud of ARROW's progress over the last 9 months. Much remains to be done, but the hard work is underway. Thank you for your continued support. And before we turn to questions, I'm going to walk you through some of our analytical trends in a couple of cases that we've prepared. So one of the things that ARROW does is high integrity analysis, as I've said. This chart represents the trend analysis of all the cases in ARROW's holdings, right, to date. What you'll see on the left is a histogram of all of our reported sightings as a function of altitude. So most of our sightings occur in the 15 to 25,000 foot range, and that is ultimately because that's where a lot of our aircraft are. On the far right upper corner, you'll see a breakout of the morphologies of all of the UAP that are reported. Over half, about 52% of what's been reported to us are round orb spheres. The rest of those break out into all kinds of different other shapes. The gray box is essentially there's no data on what its shape is. Either it wasn't reported or the sensor did not collect it. The bottom map is a heat map of all reporting areas across the globe that we have available to us. What you'll notice is that there is a heavy, what we call collection bias, both in altitude and in geographic location. That's where all of our sensors exist. That's where our training ranges are. That's where our operational ranges are. That's where all of our platforms are. In the middle, what we have done is reduce the most typically reported UAP characteristics to these fields, mostly round, mostly 1 to 4 meters, white, silver, translucent, metallic, 10,000 to 30,000 feet, with apparent velocities from stationary to Mach 2. No thermal exhausts usually detected. We get intermittent radar returns. We get intermittent radio returns, and we get intermittent thermal signatures. That's what we're looking for and trying to understand what that is. Next slide. So I'm going to walk you through 2 cases that we've declassified recently. This first one is an MQ-9 in the Middle East, observing that blow up, which is an apparent spherical object via EO sensors. Those are not IR. If you want to go ahead and click that and play it, you'll see it come through the top of the screen. There it goes. And then the camera will slew to follow it. You'll see it pop in and out of the field of view there. This is essentially all of the data we have associated with this event from some years ago. It is going to be virtually impossible to fully identify that just based off of that video. Now, what we can do and what we are doing is keeping that as part of that group of 52% to see what are the similarities, what are the trends across all of these, do we see these in a particular distribution, do they all behave the same or not? As we get more data, we will be able to go back and look at these in a fuller context. How are we going to get more data? We are working with the Joint Staff to issue guidance to all the services and commands that will then establish what are the reporting requirements, the timeliness, and all of the data that is required to be delivered to us and retained from all of the associated sensors. That historically hasn't been the case, and it's been happenstance that data has been collected. Next slide. This particular event, South Asia MQ-9, looking at another MQ-9, and what's highlighted there in that red circle is an object that flies through the screen. Unlike the previous one, this one actually shows some really interesting things that everyone thought was truly anomalous to start with. First of all, it's a high-speed object that's flying in the field of regard of 2 MQ-9s. Second, it appears to have this trail behind it. All right, which at first blush, you would think that looks like a propulsion trail. In reality, if you want to play the first slide, we'll show you what that looks like in real time, or first video. So we're looking at that. There it goes. Why don't you play it again and then pause it halfway through? Right there. All right, if you might be able to see that trail there behind it. That's actually not a real trail. That is a sensor artifact. Each one of those little blobs is actually a representation of the object as it's moving through. And later in the video, as the camera slews, that trail actually follows the direction of the camera, not the direction of the object. We pulled these apart frame by frame. We were able to demonstrate that that is essentially a readout overlap of the image. It's a shadow image, right? It's not real. Further, if you later follow this all the way to end, it starts to resolve itself into that blob that's in that picture in the top left, right? And if you squint, it looks like an aircraft because it actually turns out to be an aircraft. Go ahead and put that on. So you'll see the tail sort of pop out there. And so what you're looking at is, this is in the infrared, this is the heat signature off of the engines of a commuter aircraft that happened to be flying in the vicinity of where those 2 MQ-9s were at. Why am I showing you this? So the first one that I showed you, we don't have resolved yet, right? That is an unresolved case we are still studying. This one we can resolve. But this is the kind of data that we have to work with and the type of analysis that we have to do, which can be quite extensive when you have to pull these apart frame by frame. Further, we're now matching all of this with the models of all of those imaging sensors so that I can say, I can recreate this. I can actually show how the sensor is going to respond. All of these sensors don't necessarily respond the way you think they do, especially out in the world and in the field. And I believe that's all I have, and I will open it up for your questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kirkpatrick. Can you just give us some raw numbers of how many UAPs you've analyzed, how many have been resolved, and sort of in what buckets, and then how many are still left to be resolved? Just an update from your January public report where it was 366 or something, and about 150 were balloons, and about 24 were drones. Just give us an update if you have one.
Sure. So as of this week, we are tracking over a total of 650 cases. Now, the report in January basically said about half of the ones at that time, about 150, were likely balloon-like or something like that. That doesn't mean they're resolved.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so let me walk everyone through what our analytic process looks like. We have essentially a 5-step process, right? So we get our cases in with all the data. We create a case for that event. My team does a preliminary scrub of all of those cases as they come in, just to sort out, do we have any information that says this is in one of those likely categories? It's likely a balloon, it's likely a bird, it's likely some other object, or we don't know. Then we prioritize those based off of where they are. Are they attached to a national security area? Does it show some anomalous phenomenology that is of interest? If it's just a spherical thing that's floating around with the wind and it has no payload on it, that's going to be less important than something that has a payload on it, which will be less important than something that's maneuvering, right? So there's sort of a hierarchy of just binning the priorities because we can't do all of them at once. Once we do that and we prioritize them, when we take that package of data in that case, and I have set up 2 teams, think of this as a red team, blue team, or a competitive analysis. I have an intelligence community team made up of intelligence analysts, and I have an S&T team made up of scientists and engineers and the people that actually build a lot of these sensors, or physicists, because if you're a physicist, you can do anything, right? But they're not associated with the intel community. They're not intel officers. So they look at this through the lens of the sensor, of what the data says. We give that package to both teams. The intelligence community is going to look at it through the lens of the intelligence record and what they assess, and their intel tradecraft, which they have very specific rules and regulations on how they do that. Scientific community, technical community is going to look at it through the lens of what is the data telling me? What is the sensor doing? What would I expect a sensor response to be? And back that out. Those 2 groups give us their answers. We then adjudicate. If they agree, then I am more likely to close that case if they agree on what it is. If they disagree, we will have an adjudication. We'll bring them together. We'll take a look at the differences. We'll adjudicate why do you say one thing and you say another. We will then come to a case recommendation. That'll get written up by my team. That then goes to a senior technical advisory group, which is outside of all of those people, made up of senior technical folks and intel analysts and operators from retired out of the community. And they essentially peer review what that case recommendation is. They write their recommendations. That comes back to me. I review it. We make a determination, and I'll sign off one way or the other. And then that will go out as the case determination. Once we have an approved web portal to hang the unclassified stuff, we will downgrade and declassify things and put it out there. In the meantime, we're putting a lot of these on our classified web portal, where we can then collaborate with the rest of the community so they can see what's going on. That's, in a nutshell, that is the process, right? So because of that, that takes time. So of those over 650, we've prioritized about half of them to be of anomalous, interesting value. And now we have to go through those and go, how much do I have actual data for? Because if all I have is a operator report that says I saw X, Y, or Z, my assessment is A, B, or C, that's not really sufficient. That's a good place to start, but I have to have data. I have to have radar data, I have to have EO data, I have to have thermal data, I have to have overhead data, and we need to look at all that. Now, from a big picture perspective, I still have, that's all still very valuable data. And we're looking at applying a lot of things, new tools, analytic tools like natural language processing. So I can go across all of those reports and look for commonalities. How many of them are being described as round spherical objects that are maneuvering? How many of them are not maneuvering? How many of them seem to have a plume to it or no? That's also going to be very valuable to give us more of a global picture and a trends analysis of what are we seeing, and help us get to the determination. So go back to your question, ma'am. We have this next quarterly report will be coming out here pretty soon. Our next annual report, you all have given us, moved it up to June, July. We're going to be having that done about that time frame, and we will have we'll be combining a whole number of reports into that one. I think we're currently sitting at around, if I remember correctly, we're around 20 to 30-ish are about halfway through that analytic process. A handful of them have made it all the way out to the other side, gone through peer review. We've got case closure reports done and signed. We're going to get faster as we get more people on board and we get more of the community tools to automate some of the analysis that has to be done.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And Dr. Kirkpatrick, the ODNI annual threat assessment states that China's space activities are designed to erode U.S. influence across military, technological, economic, and diplomatic spheres. Likewise, Russia will remain a key space competitor. In the course of your work, have you become aware of any Chinese or Russia technical advancements to surveil or attack U.S. interests?
So that's a great question. Part of what we have to do as we go through these, especially the ones that show signatures of advanced technical capabilities, is determine if there's a foreign nexus. That's really hard if what we observe doesn't have a Chinese or Russian flag on the side of it. Now, I think it is prudent to say of the cases that are showing some sort of advanced technical signature, of which we're talking single percentages of the entire population of cases we have. I am concerned about what that nexus is, and I have indicators that some are related to foreign capabilities. We have to investigate that with our IC partners, and as we get evidence to support that, that gets then handed off to the appropriate IC agency to investigate. Again, it becomes an SEP at that point.
Yeah, somebody else's problem.
Right.
Very good. Thank you. Yes. Is it possible that the Chinese or Russian advanced technologies could be causing some of these anomalous behaviors? And you said there seems to be some indicators. So just for us today, could you describe potential threat that might exist out there if they are foreign nexus?
In order to do this research appropriately, we have to also be cognizant of what is the state of the art in development across the S&T community. What are the DARPAs of the world doing? What's the horizon scanning of emerging technologies appropriate to this subcommittee? What is happening out there? And if somebody could accelerate that capability, how would that manifest itself and what would it look like? And do those signatures match what we're seeing? There are emerging capabilities out there that in many instances, Russia and China, well, China in particular, are on par or ahead of us in some areas. Right. So previously, I used to be the Defense Department's intelligence officer for science and technical intelligence. That was our job, was to look for what does all that look like. And then, you know, my last several years, of course, in Space Command doing space. The adversary is not waiting. They are advancing, and they're advancing quickly. If I were to put on some of my old hats, I would tell you they are less risk averse at technical advancement than we are. Right? They are just willing to try things and see if it works. Are there capabilities that could be employed against us in both an ISR and a weapons fashion? Absolutely. Do I have evidence that they're doing it in these cases? No, but I have concerning indicators.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that is why it's so important that you are working with the intelligence community as well, because you have the science, the data background, but you also need to know.
Employed against us in both an ISR and a weapons fashion? Absolutely. Do I have evidence that they're doing it in these cases? No, but I have concerning indicators.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that is why it's so important that you are working with the intelligence community as well, because you have the science, the data background, but you also need to know from various sources what adversaries may be working on. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Rose. Well, thank you, Chair Gillibrand, Ranking Member Ernst. This is a really important hearing. I'd like to thank you, Dr. Kirkpatrick, for your service to the country, and as a former systems analyst myself,
to know from various sources what adversaries may be working on. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Rose. Well, thank you, Chair Gillibrand, Ranking Member Ernst. This is a really important hearing. I'd like to thank you, Dr. Kirkpatrick, for your service to the country, and as a former systems analyst myself, I really appreciate your flow chart, the description of the process, and particularly the trends analysis going forward, how that's going to help us. And you talked about language, the large LLMs, the large language models, the artificial intelligence. That's really going to help us in the hunt forward. Predictive analysis, I think, to some of your point, what we're worried about. But I want to focus on Nevada because I want to talk about the impact of UAPs on aviation safety. So when it comes to unidentified aerial phenomena, one of my first concerns is really about the safety of Nevada's military aviator. So we have airmen stationed at Nellis Air Force Base, naval aviators flying at Naval Air Station Fallon, and service members from across the world training at the Nevada Test and Training Range. I know you know all this. And unfortunately, the existence of advanced UAPs in the U.S. airspace and over U.S. military installations, not a new phenomenon. The Navy's officially acknowledged that between 2004 and 2021, 11 near misses occurred. Ongoing efforts within DoD to ensure the safety of our aviators with a potential UAP encounter, and what's your relationship with Northcom, NORAD, Spacecom when it comes to this immediate real-time response and how they're right there in the moment, right?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So let me start with, my relationship with the commands are very good. I just came back from sitting down with General Van Herk and all the J staff out at Northcom a couple weeks ago, talking through exactly what we need to do to help them get their arms around this. We are also working very closely with Joint Staff, and the Joint Staff has just been very outstanding in helping work through policy and guidance issues to the forces and to the services. And I would like to just make sure that we message back to all of the operators the importance of their reporting, and the fact that you're about to get a bunch of new requirements that we're issuing through the Joint Staff on all of the data that we're going to need you to save and report back to us. It is invaluable, and we are working to try to take the most advantage of that to learn what it is that we're trying to mitigate. To get directly to your question, first thing that we're doing is normalizing our reporting, right? We're standardizing our reporting and the requirements associated with that. Guidance from the Joint Staff, I think, goes out maybe this week, maybe next week, that we've been working with them for some months that does exactly what I just said. It gives them timelines, it gives them requirements, it gives them, here's all the data you have to have, and you got to retain it. The next thing that comes after that is a plan order that will go out to the commands for mitigation and response. So there's a couple of things that we have to do. One, I need to work with the commands and with the IC and with our outside of our DoD and IC partners to extend our collection posture targeted at some of these key areas that you saw on that heat map. That have a lot of activity, so that we can turn on extra collection when an operator sees something. So part of this is generating as a response function, what we call a tactic, technique, and procedure for an operator. When he sees something, calls back to the operations floor, they can turn on additional collection. What does that collection look like? How do I bring all that together so I can get more data on what is that thing?
Can I ask really quickly,
Sure.
do you have the authorities you need to extend your collection posture between agencies or branches of the military? Because that seems to me to maybe be a sticking point. I know my time's just about up. I'd love to follow up about your risk management methodologies for some of these, but do you need any authorities that you don't have to get the data?
There are
you need?
some authorities that we need. We currently are operating under Title 10 authorities, but we have good relationships across the other agencies, but having additional authorities for collection, tasking, counterintelligence,
That's something.
those are all things that would be helpful, yes.
Thank you.
To follow up, Dr. Kirkpatrick, will you help us write that language so we can put it in the defense bill this year so that we know what authorities you need?
We can do that.
Thank you. We're going to start second round. So if you want to stay, you can ask another round. I have at least 3 more questions. So do you want to go right now? So in case you have to leave? Yeah, go ahead.
Great. I'm going to stay on the drones issue because obviously we also have pre-Air Force Base. We talked about those reefers. But last February, the Chinese spy balloon, it did cross through the U.S. airspace, shot down by a Sidewinder missile fired from an F-22. Sidewinders cost us close to $500,000 each. So, given the cost of these missiles, the cost per flight, all of these other things, like I said, follow up on the authorities, your methodologies, the data collection, they can help us in other ways. But how do you think we can develop a sustainable, affordable response to UAPs where we need to, that will definitely violate our airspace, not may, definitely violate our airspace every chance that they can get because they're our adversaries. They want this information. So what do you think some cost-effective measures might be that we can get what we need out of that or take them down, whatever's appropriate, whatever the appropriate measure is, let's put it that way.
So that is actually wrapped into the plan org that we're working with Joint Staff to send out. What do the commands need from both a capabilities perspective for kinetic and non-kinetic engagements? What are the response functions of the particular wings or Navy, what have you? And then what authorities do they need?
Right.
So one of the challenges that we've seen is there's an authorities issues with the owners, operators of those ranges that they need to work through, and we're working that with Joint Staff and OSD. So big picture, we need to do all that. If you want to get down to the specifics there are non-kinetic options to engage pretty much everything, right? Whether it's electronic warfare, whether it's laser technology.
That's where this data,
That's
having
right.
the good data collection, predictive
Correct.
analytics, you can
Inform.
make some assumptions and possibilities.
That's right. And we will inform recommendations back to the department on here's what could work, here's what we've seen work, here's what doesn't work.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to just talk a little bit about your logistics, who you report to, how that's going, whether you need different reporting lines. By congressional legislation, your office is administratively located with the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, but you're not substantively subordinate to the Undersecretary. Rather, you are a direct report to the Deputy Secretary. Are you taking direction directly from the Deputy Secretary? Are you able to meet and brief the Deputy Secretary? Is the Office of USD INS working with you to have the right framework?
So USD INS, I currently report to USD INS until they come up with the plan for how they're going to implement legislation. DOD and DNI are working through that now. I'd have to refer you back to USD INS on what their plan is.
Do I need to update your reporting structure in the next defense bill, or is this something that you think will work its way out, or does it need further clarity?
I think they're planning on coming back to you with an answer on what that plan is. And I think at that time that will inform what you want to do.
Okay, thank you. As you know, Dr. Kirkpatrick, Congress has mandated that your office establish a discoverable and accessible electronic method for potential witnesses of UAP incidents and potential participants in government UAP-related activities to contact your office and tell their stories. Congress also set up a process whereby people subject to non-disclosure agreements, preventing them from disclosing what they may have witnessed or participated in, could tell you what they know without risk of retribution from or violation of their NDAs. Have you submitted a public-facing website product for approval to your superiors, and how long has it been under review?
I have. We submitted the first version of that before Christmas.
And do you have an estimate from them when they will respond and when you'll have feedback on that?
No, I don't.
Okay. We will author a letter asking for that timely response to your superiors. When do you expect that you will establish a public-facing, discoverable, and access portal for people to use to contact your office as the law requires?
So I would like to first say thank you all very much for referring the witnesses that you have thus far to us. I appreciate that. We've brought in nearly 24 so far. It's been very helpful. I'd ask that you continue to do that until we have an approved plan. We have a multi-phased approach for doing that we've been socializing and have submitted for approval sometime. And once that happens, then we should be able to push all that out and get this a little more automated.
Great.
What I would ask, though, is as you all continue to refer to us and refer witnesses to us, I'd appreciate if you do that. Please try to prioritize the ones that you want to do, because we do have a small research staff dealing with that.
Thank you. And then do you have any plans for public engagement that you want to share now that you think it's important that the public knows what the plan is?
So we have a number of public engagement recommendations according to our strategic plan. All of those have been submitted for approval. They have to be approved by USDINS. We are waiting for approval to go do that.
Okay, I will follow up on that. And then my last question is about the integration of departments, UAP operations, research analysis, and strategic communications. During the recent UAP incidents over North America, it didn't appear that you were allowed to play that role. Do you agree that the public perception is generally that you and your office did not appear to play a major role in the department's response to the detection of objects over North America? What can you tell us that's going on behind the scenes from your perspective? And in the after action assessment process, is there awareness that there is a need to operate differently in the future and a commitment to doing so?
When the objects were first detected, I got called by Joint Staff Leadership to come in late one night to review events as they were unfolding and to give them an assessment based on what we knew at that time. I did that, worked with the Director of Joint Staff, the J2 and the J3 that night and over the couple of following days on what are the types of things that we are tracking from an unidentified object perspective, what databases do we use, those sorts of things for known objects, known tracking. Beyond that, the response, I would have to refer you back to the White House for the decision on how they did the response. We did not play a role in what you would respond, other than that initial, advice on what we are seeing and how we are seeing it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Kirkpatrick, I know that your office has gotten a lot of attention recently. And of course, any new agency, there tends to be a push to increase size and funding. We want to make sure that you're able to meet your goals. But what I also need to ensure is that we're not duplicating or replicating existing functions and creating redundancy within DoD and the interagency. So what steps are you taking right now to make sure that your particular office and function is unique to any of the other agencies that might be involved in these types of cases?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would like to lay down, here's what my, sort of my mission and my goal and my vision here. So the vision is at some point in the future, you should not need an arrow. If I'm successful in what I'm doing, we should be able to normalize everything that we're doing into existing processes, functions, agencies, and organizations, and make that part of their mission and their role. Right now, the niche that we form is really going after the unknowns. I think you articulated it early on, this is a hunt mission for what might somebody be doing in our backyard that we don't know about. All right, well, that is what we are doing, right? But at some point, we should be able to normalize that. That's why it's so important, the work we're doing with Joint Staff, to normalize that into DoD policy and guidance. We are bringing in all of our interagency partners. So NASA is providing a liaison for us. I have FBI liaison, I have OSI liaison, I have service liaisons. The half of my staff come from the IC, half of my staff come from other scientific and technical backgrounds. I have DOE. And so what we're trying to do is ensure, again, as I make UAP into SEP, they get handed off to the people that is their mission to go do, so that we aren't duplicating that. I'm not going to go chase the Chinese high altitude balloon, for example. That's not my job. It's not an unknown, and it's not anomalous anymore. Now it goes over to them. Right.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I wanted just to follow up on the filters for surveillance. Outside observers have speculated that DoD sets filters on certain sensors to eliminate objects that are moving really fast or slow, because what we are looking for militarily are conventional aircraft and missiles. UAP that doesn't fit into these programs would thereby be weeded out and never noticed. This speculation was proven to be true during the UAP incidents over North America, where DoD publicly acknowledged that we were able to start seeing these UAPs only when we opened up these filters. Obviously, our military operators cannot be overloaded with objects that are not conventional aircraft or missiles. Can you nonetheless make sure that the raw data is being captured and subsequently processed, so that your office knows what's really out there? And is that going to cost money? Will you expect to pay for that money out of Aero's budget?
One of the key tenets that we're trying to do in our science plan is understand what those signatures are. So we get all the raw, for example, radar data prior to the scrubbing and filtering to allow it to enter into our weapon systems and our detection systems. We are now taking all that data and cross-correlating it to what pilots are saying they're seeing or other observations from other operators. What that allows us to do is then see if there are any signatures in that data that I can pull out, generate what we'll call automatic target recognition algorithms that allow us to then use that signature associated with a observed UAP, whatever that UAP may be. We will then make those recommendations of what those changes should be back to the department. So the Deputy Secretary had asked me last October to make those recommendations. What changes do we need to make to radars, to platforms, to detection systems and algorithms to pull on those algorithms and make those changes? That's going to take some time. That's where the research and development comes in, right? It's not instantaneous. Right now, a lot of the, I won't say, a lot of the things that fall outside of the ranges of those filters have been identified by people in the loop, and you can't have people in the loop all the time. It's just not cost effective. So part of our budget is working through what does that look like, and then making those recommendations back to the big program offices for them to put into changes in that acquisition.
My last question is about the academic community. Can you give us an update on sort of how you collaborate with the academic community, and whether how the independent study being done by NASA complements Aero's work?
Sure. Two questions, so I'm going to try to make it quick. The 1979, Carl Sagan said, "Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence." I would go one step further, and I would say extraordinary claims require not only extraordinary evidence, but extraordinary science. And so how do you do that? You do that with the scientific method, right? And so as Aero is developing and implementing its science plan, it has to do so grounded in a solid foundation of scientific theory across the entire range of hypotheses that have been presented for what UAP are. That range spans adversary breakthrough technology on one hand, known objects and phenomena in the middle, all the way to the extreme theories of extraterrestrials. All of that has physics-based signatures associated with it, whether it's theoretical from the academic community, known from things like hypersonic weapons, or adversary breakthrough technologies, as we've talked about before, or the known objects that we have to go measure. The idea is across that entire range, you have to come up with peer-reviewed scientific basis for all of it. The academic community plays a very big role on the one end of the spectrum, the intelligence community on the other end of the spectrum, and then measurement in the middle. Once I have those signatures identified in validated peer-reviewed documents, then I have something to point to for all that data. Because all that data is going to match one of those signatures, right? And then I can go, well, it's that and not that, or it's that. And that helps us go through all that. Where NASA comes in and the study that they're doing, which I'm supporting, is really looking at the unclassified data sources that might be used to augment our classified data sources to understand if there's a signature there we can pull on. So very similar to the radars, but civil capabilities. So for example, we have a lot of climate science satellites, for example, that look at Earth. Lots of them. How many of those is the data valuable in seeing these kinds of objects. The challenge in that is those platforms don't necessarily have the resolution you need. So if you remember the slide